Geocachomaniacs.
Geo Gearheads.
Hey, welcome to Geo Gearheads. This is episode 504. That's almost a cleaning product, but it's not quite. It's one that apparently didn't make it, or they stopped when they hit a really good one. I don't know why I came up with that. It's supposed to be anyway. Hey, Darryl, how are you?
It's just going to be one of those shows tonight, I guess.
Yeah, well, isn't it always typically one of those shows?
Yeah. You know, this is what happens when you record on a weekday after work.
Boy, I've had a couple of days this week. Let me tell you,
I've had a few weeks this week.
I've stumped multiple tech supports this week.
Oh, nice.
Multiple companies.
That was my last week. This week it's all about PCI.
And compliance.
Yes.
You're not a compliant kind of guy, though.
Well, at work I am.
Okay, I'll give you that.
But going from nothing to compliant is not
tough.
easy. Yes.
Been
This
there,
is
my
our
friend.
first PCI DSS, so it's been quite a chore. And next week is the on-sites, which aren't on site since COVID. So that's
Right.
actually nice.
Okay,
Andy.
you say so.
But today we're going to talk about fun geocaching hides. Not about compliance, not about tech support. Though, you know, we could probably talk about both those things for hours on end.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about something fun, and that is hiding fun, but hopefully pretty easy geocaches. And this came up largely because it's that time of year where people are getting out caching again, whether because it's starting to cool down or whatever, you know, or warm up in the southern hemisphere. It's that time when people want to get out and hide some caches. So we wanted to talk about some of the interesting and fun things that we've seen and thought about for hiding a cache.
Well, let me start off by what Limac says. He says, I use a slingshot and a very large rock to hide my geocaches. I learned that from YouTube.
Handy.
No, not really. You know, I've always wanted to know, here in the Northwest, we have an abundance of blackberries. They're considered an invasive species, right?
Okay.
Right this time of year, they're delicious. You eat them right off the vine, but they've got thorns on them and they grow everywhere. I've always wondered if I take a film canister and toss it out in the middle of blackberry patch, how many people would actually go for it? I know some would.
Oh, absolutely. And some people are probably armed with the specialty tools, like those little grippers. And, you know, for them, it's probably not such a big deal.
I want to throw it out farther than that.
Sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's still not such a big deal. Yeah, that gets you an extra, 5 feet.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know.
No, but it's one of those. It's like, I know somebody would still go for it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to happen.
Got to be the first to find, right?
But that doesn't make it much fun. It might be fun for the hider, especially if there's a camera that can watch all of the people screaming in agony as they try for it. But that's not the kind of stuff that we're talking about tonight.
So it's not fun for the hider. It's fun for the finder.
Yeah, we're hoping for stuff that's fun for everyone, hider and finder. You know, that's what makes it fun for everyone, right?
I suppose.
So it might not be fun for the muggles.
Right.
So we have to figure that part out.
They don't know.
Yeah. GSM times 2 wants to know if you're going to have a unique terrain difficulty rating for the physical followers. You pretty much have to.
1 terrain 5.5.
I don't think you can do it that way. Maybe 4.5. but not 5.5.
No, I'd go for 5.5. I'm not going out there.
How about a 4? Then you'll probably get a few more people going for it.
Okay.
So one
Yes,
of the
you say
things,
so, I guess.
yeah, one of the things that makes the caches fun is having something that's a good size where you can actually trade things.
Right.
And I was actually thinking about hiding one after I read the description of one of the caches in this area that we went for and couldn't find because it had gone missing, which is also a good
Okay.
cautionary tale. Because the problem is when you've got these caches that are of any size, they tend to go missing.
Right.
And especially if there's fun and interesting toys in there, they can tend to go missing.
Mm-hmm.
So the one that I saw and was anxious to go for myself was actually a minifig trade container. So it had a theme. It was supposed
Okay.
to be trading Lego minifigs. That would have been awesome if it hadn't gotten stolen.
Oh, that's a shame.
So, I'm assuming that some kids found it and got excited because, hey, free toys.
Free toys.
Free toys are nice. So,
Yes, they can be. But
there's all kinds of things that
that's
you
a
can
real
do. Yeah, but there's all kinds of things you can do along that theme. You have to find a good hiding spot for them.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard enough finding a hiding spot that has good camo that's going to survive, not have, weather related issues, but then to make sure that it's difficult or, I don't want to really say difficult, I guess, but, so that it's not likely to be spotted and, muggled is a little bit challenging.
Darryl, I've often said I'm pretty much opposed to front yard hides.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Hides in either your yard or somebody else's yard, your grandmother's, whoever permission you have. But for something unique like that, I would make an exception.
Well, and we've had a number of these kind of caches where it is a large container and it's on the front
Mhm.
porch, clearly labeled. Those kind of things I think are always an exception because it's
Right.
obvious. It's not something that you're going to have to worry about. And a lot of people who have done that still put the padlock on with a combination.
Mhm.
That way you don't have to worry about the kids getting at it. It's big enough that they're hopefully not going to run away with it, though some of them I've seen still bolted to the building. You can take some
Right.
rather serious precautions and make sure it doesn't walk off. And then if you have a theme, that makes it that much more fun. And we've seen a lot of the simple themes like the coin exchanges where it's a currency. You're supposed to take foreign currency. These seem
Mhm.
to be especially popular around transit centers,
Right.
airports around the US, but I've heard of them in Europe around train stations as well, or ferry terminals. You can't have it too close, but, close enough.
What are you gonna do with that 25 kroner anyway?
Well, and this is the thing is when you've got all of that little change, like I'm coming back from Canada, for instance, and
And
no
you
one,
don't have pennies.
no one wants to take uh, Canadian currency in the US. It happens that it sneaks in,
Mhm.
but it's, similar enough in size that that's one of the reasons people don't want to take it is because it's easily mistaken and it doesn't hold the same value. So they will go and dump that change in a dish or whatever when they come back from Canada, hoping to reuse
Return
it the next
someday.
time they go over
Mhm.
there. And it makes it a little bit more fun if you have a currency exchange. Not to mention, I've actually seen people go and grab the coins out of there, and trade coins so that they can get the appropriate coinage for, or bills to go for the change at the coin op lines, which I think at this point are pretty much gone. You don't
I
have
would
many of those automated booths that do the coins at the things anymore at the
at the
bridges, the
ferry
toll booths.
terminals or toll roads and such,
Right, right.
where you throw the coins in the basket.
Right. That's, I think, pretty much gone at this point. It's all going to contactless payments of some type.
Right. Right. That's what our bridges and roads have become here. One system. You have the pass on your windshield, and as you drive through, it charges you.
Sure. Yeah, it makes it a lot easier for everyone involved. The problem is if you're not from around there, how does that work?
Oh, they take a picture of your car and your license plate and mail you a
Right.
reminder that you went through.
Right.
Excuse me, you went through. You know what? You pay this in the next week, and there'll be no problem.
Right.
After
Which
that,
is always fun.
no good for you. You don't ever come back.
Yeah, next time you come back, we'll pull you over and make you pay.
Yeah.
And you don't like when we make you pay.
Yeah. Well,
but yeah, the theme sides are, pretty easy to do.
well, you were
Take
talking
some
about
effort.
you were talking about security, and that rang a bell with me.
Okay.
There was one, I want to say it was in the Portland area. It's a multi-cache. The first stop, you get a key. The second stop is the cache with a lock on it. And that's sitting right out on a city street, right on the sidewalk. But since it's locked, nobody gets into it. Right.
Sure.
And then you do have to go back and return the key.
Right.
Right. That's where I feel the weak point of that cache is. Hey, I found it. I'll just leave the key here.
Yep. Yeah, and I've seen a few of that kind of thing where it's like a segment of rope. So you need that section of rope to drop the cache.
Mm. It would be kind of interesting if that rope had a magnet on it, right? Then you reach down the tube, you pull out the cache, but then you've
I've
got to
had those as well.
Yeah, then you've got to return that rope / string with the magnet back to the first location.
Yep. Which on some of them isn't such a big deal because there's only one way in, one way out kind of thing.
Right.
But yes, we've talked about a number of those theme caches on our chats and whatnot. I think you had a couple of other ones that you ran into as well.
Well, still going on the lock. Sorry, I'm stuck on that for the moment.
Okay.
Long ago, in a cache far, far away, there was a travel bug that moved around town that was a key that was needed for a lock for a cache, which, again, I don't know how practical that was because I could never get the two together.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's always the problem.
Yeah.
We used to have a lot of those traveling keys, or you had to have this one piece to get the other, and it worked early on, but the more people started playing, the harder it was to do it.
Yeah.
So not such a good thing anymore. I think one of them that was around here, there were like 10 of the keys floating around. Okay. Within a year, it was down to 1 or 2.
Yeah. And hopefully you made duplicates.
Well, obviously, whoever made that one made duplicates, but I think the problem was they actually put all of them out.
Oh.
Because I remember them trying to find a key so they could get a copy made.
Yeah, you got to think ahead on that one.
Yeah.
Limax says, we had one similar here where the travel bug was a chirp that you needed to find the cache, but the bug kept disappearing.
Ooh, that would be rough.
Yeah.
But yeah, having a lock or something like that is a quick, easy way to kind of turn it into a gadget-ish cache. You can have a little bit of a puzzle. You can have, go from one to the other, and you get a simple locking container. A lot of the the ammo cans will lock. Mm-hmm. So it's not hard to find the containers that easily lock. It's just a matter of, how do you want to make that work? In finding a good spot, getting the permission, which is always a tough one. The permission is harder than actually coming up with the ideas and hiding the actual cache. It's getting the permission.
It can be. You've got to find the right person.
Yeah.
You've got to find the right person.
Yeah. And, that's not so easy. As we've talked about on previous shows, to even figure out who the right person is, let alone get them to agree. Now, once you figure out that person and have worked with them a few times, it gets easy.
Mm-hmm.
So
Easier.
Yeah. Well, I've always been a fan of the permit process just because it's a nice, clear, easy way to get to get permission for a cache. You filled out the permit, you've got the documentation that says, hey, you talked to the right person.
Exactly.
But in any case,
okay, so we also talked Lego caches, right? Or minifig for you.
minifig, yeah. Well, I'm calling them generally theme caches.
Yeah.
Where you're
Now,
exchanging something on the topic.
Have you found one that's a birdhouse made out of Lego, and you've got to count the number of colored bricks?
No, I haven't done that one before, but around here, the Lego doesn't have the tendency to survive all that well because of the, cold to hot. And, the humidity and freezing doesn't help.
I think this one was made with Craggle.
Yeah, Craggle doesn't hold up very well. Though I heard Gorilla Glue actually does work pretty well out here.
Especially in your hair.
Oh, I wasn't going to go there.
Okay.
Wow.
It's got that all day hold or week, 2 weeks.
Hey, but the 3D printed caches actually are doing fairly well from everything I've seen and heard if they are treated well. You have to coat them with the stuffs.
That utterly amazes me because I would figure Lego would be far more durable than a 3D printed cache.
Well, the 3D printed cache should not have all of those little tiny gaps. And if it's coated, it should be fine. But the question is, did I drop or did Chris drop? Because Chris has jumped off for a moment. But yeah, the 3D printed caches are always cool.
I don't know what happened. All of a sudden, it says, "Hey, you should connect to the internet." I kind of thought I was.
Wow, it's been one of those kind of days.
Yeah, it's kind of a fun little game within podcasting.
It's not a game that I want to play.
Oh, sorry. Okay,
but in any case,
I'm back. I
was just mentioning that I haven't gotten back into the 3D printing for the caches like I wanted to.
I haven't either, and it's sitting over here just mocking me.
Yeah, and Limax is saying that Lego is made of the same material that they use for 3D printed caches.
And yes and no.
Most of the 3D printed caches that I've run into are not done with the ABS plastic. And that's the difference. ABS does not survive well. There are a few conditions where it does work well. PETG is the one that a lot of people have been liking. There was another one I heard about recently that's been doing well. But even the PLA, if it's shielded well, does do pretty well. And you have to seal it, which is what I was using. But yeah, the ABS plastic doesn't seem to work very well. GSM times 2 says you're ready to crash the internet since it's 9 p.m. in Michigan.
That's right. Wits End found an article or was listening to a podcast that said, they read a stat that, the internet wasn't made for the continual home working at home that we're using it for today.
Right.
They designed it for, say, 9 p.m. on Thursdays. Like, oh, I know what happens at 9 p.m. on Thursdays. We're the reason the internet crashes.
Yeah. All right. Getting back to the 3D printed caches, though, as GSM times 2 said, he thinks the fun hides are things hidden in plain sight. And that's one of the best things about the 3D printed caches.
Them are so evil.
Yeah, you can really tailor your cache to the environment, and done well, it doesn't look like it's out of place.
Mm-hmm.
It really looks like it belongs.
Yeah. There was one here that MC3 Cats just went for yesterday, was it? Yes. That I remember that Wits End had found it, and so he stood back to mock me. It's truly hidden in plain sight, but it blends in so well, and it's a micro or it's a nano. It's just a magnetic nano.
Yeah. And one of the ones that really irritated the heck out of me that I don't think is very fun was called Acorn. And it was on a giant metal sculpture called the tree.
Nice.
It didn't look anything like a tree. If you stood back and took a look, knowing it was called the tree, okay, you could see how it was a tree. But it looked more like a whole bunch of HVAC vents thrown together and painted black, and it was a black cache on this black item.
Was it a nano, magnetic nano?
Yeah, it was a blinky.
Yeah.
And at that point, you didn't see too many of those out there. So it was a really, really tricky hide. Never found that one. And we just gave up in utter frustration because, trying to find a little blinky on this giant, I want to say it was like a 30-foot tall statue that was easily like 4 or 5 feet across. Isn't something that we wanted to do in the middle of a downtown area.
No. And have you found those little magnetic nano blinkies on, let's say, large metal machinery, tractors? We had a big tree,
abandoned steamrollers.
Yeah.
Trains. And tanks are a big one.
Okay.
Those are just cruel.
Yep.
And I do get it, and I appreciate the entertainment value of that, but I really don't like them.
Just for the time it takes to search?
The time and the aggravation. You start looking for one of those things, and I will spend a ton of time on something like a puzzle. But when it comes to a nano, I don't want to spend that much time. And I get frustrated and turn away. Unless it's got a lot of favorite points, after about 5 to 10 minutes, I tend to turn away from those style caches. Yeah. It's just not worth it. I'll go find a dozen other smileys in the time it takes me to find that one.
Yeah. GSM times 2 says, hide what you like to find. Who the heck likes to find those?
Well, a lot of people do like those really tricky hides where you have that sense of accomplishment for finding this needle in the haystack. And that's how, that's what I'm saying, that I appreciate that. I just don't like them myself. Oh,
Next says, I love it when my preconception makes it harder to find. And that's what I'm always finding. Well, I would have hidden it here, so let's keep looking here. Well, guess what? They didn't hide like me.
Right. Yeah, and you always have to be careful with those too, that someone else didn't go and say, hey, this doesn't belong here. I'm going to move it over here.
Yes.
And then you'll end up with multiple cache containers, which is always a nuisance for everyone involved.
Which is no good, yes?
No, that's very bad. Very, very bad. But anyway, getting back to the easy to hide caches. I've done a bunch of the nanos. I don't generally do those anymore, because back when I did the nanos, it was because they were still kind of novel, and I would hide them in the signposts.
Okay.
And it was a series called Parking Knots. So you always knew it was behind the no parking sign. It was a fun, quick, easy way to get a cache. It was kind of targeted around the people who were trying to do the cache a day streaks and whatnot. But that's gotten hard enough to do and a little bit more sensitive again recently. So,
yeah,
I tend not to hide them anymore. And when I do hide something like that, it's because it's the final to something like the Adventure Lab, so that you get the bonus cache in areas that really don't support anything but. but they are easy. It's how do you make those fun? And some of the ones that I've seen are things like the GeoArt, which isn't so easy to set up, but that's always fun. Do a bunch of quick, easy
Right.
puzzles. I've also seen one where they're telling a story cache by cache.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to find all the caches to finish the story. You do them in order, and you've got yourself a little story.
That's always good. What about? Oh, go ahead.
GSM times 2 says, for me, a veggie hide is my 45-second search hide. I look for 45 seconds, then move on. I'm not sure what the veggie hide is, but I'm assuming it's in vegetation. Yeah. So things that are like in a garden.
Starcacher has better attention span than we do. He says it's taken me about 25 minutes of Darryl's fidgeting to read all of his shirt.
Yes. It is a fun shirt. I will say that. But one of the highlights from the geocaching T-shirt of the month club so far.
Ah, gotcha. Darryl, what about this? This is one that Wits End and I did on a trip. It was in a stop sign, and the stop sign's a square post, right, with holes all the way up and down it.
Yep.
And there's a bison tube at the bottom, and you have to work it up to a hole that they've widened out, 3/4 of the way up.
Yeah, I've seen those. I don't like them so much.
It was one of those that, it wasn't difficult. It was time consuming and very rewarding when you finally got it out.
Well, the one that I remember like that the most had a monofilament line on it. But the monofilament line was not tied at the top.
Oh,
it was tied like, one set down. So when you were reaching up, you couldn't feel it.
Oh, nice. Cause that's what I would do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it was still nice and easy, but yeah, the monofilament line ones always annoy me in that, that's a very fragile wire put into something that has some sharp edges, and you're poking at it with things that are possibly sharp. And I've seen too many of them that are stuck at the bottom because someone accidentally clipped the wire.
Yeah.
And again, that's also an environmental thing, because anything that's plastic tends to get brittle.
Mm-hmm.
The more it's exposed to the temperature changes, to the sun. So if it's in a signpost in somewhere like Southern California, you're probably fine. But you put something like that in a signpost up here in Michigan, it's going to last maybe 2 seasons.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But, you can have a lot of fun with those style hides, just doing like the fence post caps.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have a chain or line of some type. GSM times 2 said the monofilament line degrades in the sun, and that's a major problem in SoCal. So, hey, doesn't even work there. Just avoid it. But you tie it to the cap of a fence post, and when you lift up the fence post, out comes the cache, and you put the whole thing back together again. Quick, easy, nice way to hide a cache.
Right.
Now, I shouldn't say it's that easy, because sometimes matching those caps is a tough order, but it's easy if you have the right type, and you can find one of the manufactured, small batch manufactured caps from like a geocaching event, or some of the online stores I think still sell those. So it's a real easy, just drop it on there and you're done. It doesn't take much if you can get the caches pre-made for you.
Exactly. Or you could 3D print. I've seen 3D print caps that fit over those for the square street signs, especially when they're lower, like a no parking You just put the black cap right on top. It looks completely natural.
GSM times 2 says, I hid them and none lasted more than 3 months. I assume he's talking about the
Monofilament.
monofilament, which, yeah, I've seen a lot of that kind of stuff. So, that's probably what he's talking about. Now, he might also be talking about the fence cap sides, and I have seen a lot of those that fall apart. It has to be done right.
Yes.
And the right ones that I've seen are all screwed in, not like taped or glued, because glue doesn't tend to work very well for metal.
Mm-hmm.
I do remember some from much, much earlier where it was a chain welded in.
Okay.
Whoever did it had some welding equipment and just took the chain and poof, it's all fixed. So,
Poof,
you have
just
to
like
use
that. Poof.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, more like poof. What's the sound that a spark makes?
Zap.
So you have to have good construction on all these things. And hopefully if you're buying one, it's going to be well constructed. But we've seen, like you mentioned, those plastic caps, which if you have one of the nylon fences, which I'm seeing a lot more of those out there, the 3D printed caches are the right type.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not PVC, is it?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's actually
I thought it was more flexible than PVC.
No, it's just a different schedule of PVC.
Yeah.
It's not
so many different types of plastic.
Yeah. Aren't there though?
Yeah. Yeah, like
PET
G, which is totally different than PET.
Oh. What am I supposed to do with my pets then?
I don't know.
Okay.
You're not supposed to 3D print them.
But
that's getting into like the 1970s. Yeah, it's like the pet rocks that you used to have.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
and now they're USB powered pet rocks.
So you're way back. Someone was just taking and clipping off the USB cable from mice and gluing them onto rocks and selling them as USB powered pet rocks. It's like, you almost wanted to give him like, the $5 that he was asking just to support the clever idea. Anyway.
No, you don't, Darryl. No, you don't.
I did not. Okay. But you almost wanted to. Yeah, it was like hot glue and it's going to come off anyway, so who cares? But
it's not watertight, so you can't keep it outside. You have to have an indoor pet rock.
Well, okay, you probably did this too. Remember way back when you had the mice with the balls still for the before the optical mice? Those things would break constantly.
Yep.
So we had a bag of googly eyes. And whenever one broke, you put the googly eyes on it and, either hung it up or took it for walks, so you had your pet mice.
No, I didn't do that.
You didn't do that?
No.
You didn't have the wall of dead mice?
Mm-mm.
That was fun for a minute. We also took the magnets out of the hard drives and hung them on the vents.
Oh, yes. That we did.
Starcasher says for the fence post cache hung in the pipe. I didn't realize that was a tongue twister. I now put a big sponge a foot down the pipe so that when the cache ultimately breaks off, it only falls down a foot and then can be recovered easily.
That's genius.
I like that one. One of the other things that I've seen that I don't really recommend is someone took the spray foam and put that in there.
Right.
Because that way it wouldn't fall.
Well, true, but that way you can't get it out.
You can't get the foam out?
You can't get that foam out of there easily enough.
No,
with the sponge, you could just reach down, pull it out.
Right. So there's alternatives, but think about removing what you're doing, because
Right.
when that cache
And
goes,
that's
you
not
want
your
it to be
property.
clean. Yeah.
Right.
And again,
So
get permission.
that's the first and foremost, get permission. Now, is anybody ever going to look down a fence post and go, man, there's spray foam in here. This is completely ruined. No, they're going to tear the fence post up, cement base and all, and move on. But
Well, and if you have something like those square signposts,
Mhm.
that's going to ruin that.
Yes.
So, anyway. But yeah, the 3D printed caches on the signposts are cool. And I still have one that I wanted to do and never got around to, which
Mhm.
was make it look like one of the broken reflector holders.
Yes. Yeah.
Never did that,
I've seen
but
those a
always seemed
lot.
like a good idea.
Or, just use one of the screws of the reflector and turn it up. And
Yeah, well, this was going to be you had to pull the bracket apart so that it was a little bit more challenging, but it looked like it was going to be, like the broken reflector holder, nothing there,
Mhm.
and just pull it apart and then the bison tubes inside, because I still wanted the bison tube for the
Oh,
strength. But yeah, that way,
tricky.
there's it has a top, it has a bottom, but then you pull it off and you get to the cache.
Mhm.
So I thought that was a clever one. Never got around to designing and printing it, because at the time my printers went poof. Now I've got
Oh,
new printers that I haven't even put filament through. So
and they're not poof?
they're not, well, they might be poof and I don't know it.
It's not even a real term, Darryl.
It is now.
Okay. Printer poof.
Well, poof is when the thermal, what do they call it? I'm trying to call it thermocouple, but that's the wrong name. But the heater for the filament popped. It burned
And it
itself
goes
out.
poof.
Yep. Wow,
Okay.
it's getting late already, though. And we haven't even touched on a lot of these cool, clever ideas. One of the really common ones around here has been the flat packs, ever since the ban on containerless caches. It's basically just a Ziploc of some type. Sometimes it's using the hook and eye, like
Oh,
Velcro
okay.
kind of stuff.
Right.
Sometimes it's actual bags, but whatever it is,
I've seen the bags with duct tape over them.
yeah. But one of the things that I've seen that I really like is when they take those, put the letters on top of them,
Mhm.
so that it's like they'll put, like, I think usually a flat metal surface on one side, and then the back is just the magnets with the bag in it, so that you slap it up on that box. So it's not as good as, remember the old ones where it went literally onto the magnet, and the magnet had the log taped to the back.
Yep. I made one of those, Darryl.
Yeah, it's not as good as that is.
And I had one of those made, ready to deploy, got my cache approved, went out there to deploy it. The box I wanted to put it on was aluminum. I hadn't tested ahead of time.
Oops.
Excuse me, I need to cancel this brand new cache you approved. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Limax says that he's seen a lot of the flatbacks around him, and they don't last very long in the weather, and which is true. Those have to be protected.
There's one
even
around
then,
here.
go ahead.
It rains a lot around here. I don't know if you know that.
No, never would have guessed.
No, never heard that.
I thought that was a desert.
Well, that's true. Oh no, it's dessert.
It's dessert.
So good you put two
Oh,
S's in it.
got it. Okay.
Anyway, the write in the rain paper taped to the back of a magnet, put up against a metal box. I had looked and I thought, am I first to find? No, it can't be. No, this has been out here a while. But all the names had been removed as the water just shedded the ink right off of it.
I've seen those before. Yeah, that it's funny, but I
Oh, well,
I can only imagine that's
self-cleaning
part
log.
of
I like it.
why you're not supposed to do those anymore.
Yeah, it could be.
But yeah, I do enjoy those. The flat packs are great. Oh, GSM times 2 has a um, interpretation.
Follow up.
A cacherless container can be misunderstood, or containerless cache can be misunderstood. Geocaches need a replaceable log, so the mag strip will work as long as the log is replaceable. At least that's my understanding. And that could be the way it was done when they changed those guidelines. They weren't allowing us to hide the flat magnets up here anymore. But again, when you're dealing with these guidelines, it's up to the reviewer to interpret them how they've been guided to do so.
Mhm.
And that does change. So it was probably a overreaction, shall we say, to the way that it was presented, and now they've backed off and said, okay, that's fine as long as you can somehow replace the log. And technically, if you replace the entire cache, a lot of people interpret that as when the cache is replaced, it's a new cache. So you can replace the container if the contents stay, and that's fine. But you can't replace the whole container, log, and everything and have it be the same cache. So the way that I tend to do maintenance means that I should be republishing my caches if you subscribe to that. Because generally when I go and do my maintenance on caches, I just swap the whole thing out.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'll bring the container back. If it's in good shape, it gets rehabbed and goes out again. If not, it gets pitched. So I obviously don't subscribe to that. Now, if I'm changing the container type, that's a different story. And I've had some of these where it was like a lock and lock, and all of a sudden they redid the landscaping, and now there's nowhere for it to hide.
Right.
But I can still put a bison tube in, almost right on top of the old one, because they put, some signs or whatever there. So I do have, I shouldn't say do, I should say I have in the past relisted those as, redux, that kind of thing.
Okay.
It's not the same cache. You're going from a small or better to a micro. It's not the same cache. It shouldn't be hidden the same way, but, good location. Maybe not as interesting as it once was, but, still a good location. So I'm going to still take advantage of it. Plus, that way it gives people a reason to come back and visit that park or whatever all over again.
So you're kind of refreshing the game board.
Exactly. It's out of necessity, but, again, your cache has changed substantially.
Mm-hmm.
Time to refresh the game board. Or, you can just pull it and let someone else put something there. That hasn't been working for me lately, though.
Oh, having somebody, you almost have to advertise it or, let somebody adopt it, right?
Yeah, because when you get into these areas like mine where it's not seeing a lot of turnover, people generally don't pay that much attention. There's a ton of caches out here. A lot of them are the puzzles. It's hard to figure out. So you pretty much have to go and advertise to your local cachers that, hey, this space is now available if you want to use it.
How would you do that? Would you do that at an event?
I generally message people, or I have been messaged a few times, and we have a few of the cachers who are more notable that will actually reach out when there is a cache too close to a spot that they want to do and ask, hey, I want to put this out here, but your cache is in the way. Would you mind? And almost always it's to get another one of, these gacha caches or another excellent puzzle, I'm more than happy.
Exactly.
And we've had a few that are like, yeah, but not until this date.
Okay.
Which, generally it's something that you can work with. So, maybe it's they want the cache to have survived for 3 years or something. It's for someone's special event. Who knows? It's just, it's there.
It's there.
Dum, dum, dum.
How there is it?
I don't think we want to talk about that.
Okay.
Anyway, it is getting long in the show. And I'm sure there's a bunch more awesome, quick and easy hides. Not that we got into that many of them, but we did get a chance to talk about a lot of our easy ones.
Yeah. And
but
thank you, GSM times 2, for talking about containerless.
Yes. I really do want to hide that minifig one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, ever since I saw that one, it's been like on my mind. So I'm thinking I have one of those like Pelican style geocaching containers that I never used. I've got to find a spot to hide this. But one of the things we didn't mention is with those theme caches, you can't generally get away with hiding like, minifig exchange, because that's a trademarked name.
Oh, gotcha.
So it has to be like
construction
Brickman
set figure.
Yeah, well, I've seen a lot of the brick whatevers. Almost anything Lego is brick something.
Right.
So, you can be a little bit creative. The Target caches were spot on or something like that.
I one of my milestone caches early on was a Beanie Baby exchange, and that's what it was called. And I thought, Beanie Baby exchange? Yeah, it was an ammo can, but how's that going to last out here in the winter when everything gets humid? No, I don't want that afterwards. But, there were Beanie Babies in there, and when I got it, it was dry. But I thought,
that's again one that you could probably make work if it's on someone's porch.
Yeah, no, this was near a business, but no, not on a porch.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to work. All right. But you know what? I think it's time to say farewell this week, and we'll be back next week. Check the Cache Maniacs website at cachemaniacs.com for more on the Geo Gearheads, including show notes for this and all of our episodes. We love hearing from our listeners, so leave us feedback by emailing geogearheads at cachemaniacs.com or through social media. Your support helps keep the Cache Maniacs shows coming. Please consider becoming a patron through the link on our website to support the Cache Maniacs shows. Geo Gearheads is produced by Chris Huffenauer and Darryl Wanberg. This show is copyright 2021 by Darryl Wanberg. All rights reserved.